emotionality is triggered from recognitive events. Before the recognitive event of something, there's no emotion. The emotion happens because we recognize something as nice, nasty, annoying,
Right.
whatever, and we react to that.
Yeah.
So emotionality is a map consequence.
Yeah.
Beneath the map, there's no emotionality like that. And in fact, many of the things that we find disgusting are turned out to be learned. So young children will play with feces, for example, quite happily. They don't know it's disgusting. It's not inherently disgusting. We learn it to be disgusting. And then, oh, God, how could you do that? But initially, you'll find young kids quite happily doing that. And they are universally, not just one or two. All kids will do it. You have to
Right.
train them out of it. And this is a good example of how emotionality is learned. So controlling emotionality is too late. You could say emotionality comes on the scene third in the sequence of events.
Okay.
So by the time you've got to emotionality, the story's already cooked.
Okay.
You've gone too late.
Dishonesty, disrespectful, discrimination, detached, dismissive. That's it. I'm done. Relationships can be messy. Are you having trouble with your personal or professional relationship? Not to worry. As a relationship therapist and coach for over 25 years, I have a lot to share. And so will my guest experts. Let's get smarter in our business and personal lives so we can be our best selves. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my show, The Luella Young Show. So today I have with me Dr. Richard Dixey. And if you have been listening to my show for many years, you might remember that I had him way back in 2023. Actually, Dr. Dixey just reminded me, I to be honest with you, I thought it was a year and a half ago. So that's how time flies. And so if you don't remember, he wrote the book 3 Minutes a Day, which was a 14-week course to learn, well, meditation, but, yeah, I wouldn't call it a meditation training book. Would you, Richard?
No,
No,
not really.
no,
Well,
no.
not as meditation is normally understood, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, I will let Richard sort of catch us up on what he's been up to. But really, what made me bring him back was because of my work with couples and because of how one spouse is constantly predicting, the next move of their spouse, usually not in a very favorable way, but more in a conflictual way, and having these expectations or lack of expectations of them. And it just tends to cause a lot of grief in the relationship. So I always tell my couples, be curious, be open, treat each new interaction like it was the first interaction that you've had with your spouse, right? We all deserve that. And Richard did a great job in this book of talking about prediction. And it's not just like a nice, bit of like poetic, prose that he put into the book or anything like that. It's actually science. Like it's science that's been around forever, but I don't think that people actually realize that this is the world we live in. So Richard, I'll let you take it from here. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, yeah, as I was saying, barely a week goes past without an article on how the brain is predicting what is happening in the world and making a narrative out of it. There's an article about it yesterday on Google. I mean, it happens all the time. This actually isn't a recent recognition. It's been known for a very, very long time that this is the case. And normally these explanations are couched in neurophysiological language, with guys in white coats talking about the brain and how it predicts the world. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's all very well, very interesting. But what we really want to understand as human beings is how I predict my world. Now, that's a completely different type of question.
Mm.
And we can, however, access it. There are techniques that exist for us to access this process. And of course, the classic example of this is meditation. Now, this term meditation has taken on a modern meaning associated with a particular type of practice. So it's a bit unfortunate to use the term meditation with all these trappings it's managed to pick up nowadays. But let's just talk about the practice of developing a skill so you can look at your own psychological process yourself. That's meditation.
Okay.
So, how can we do that and what does it show? Well, our common language has a very interesting word in it, recognition. So I go, oh, I recognize this lady. It's Llewellyn John. I recognize her. I know who she is, right? I recognize. Now you can see in that term, recognize, there's a sense of reflexivity. Something's been done again. It's been recognized. And this is actually quite a profound realization. There's cognition, which is stuff arising in the five senses or stuff arising as thoughts and imaginations in the brain. And then there's recognition, where that stuff is identified, named, and placed in a receptacle we call the world.
Mm.
Now, remember, this term, the world, really refers to what we recognize.
Mm-hmm.
My world and your world are probably quite different in the sense that you live somewhere different from me, you have a different background from me, different friends from me. So we can infer that we all live in one world, but actually this is really illusory. We live in basically as many worlds as there are human beings because all of us have a slightly different world. And some people care about one thing more than others, and they'll see that thing more than other people will, etc., etc., etc. This process of recognition is profound and important. Now, there's another thing to say about it before we actually go into what we might do about this. And again, it comes down to another thing we all know. It's called a reaction time. We have a certain amount of time required before we can react. Now, we always have a good example. You knock a glass of water off the table. You can see it falling, but you can't catch it. You just watch it smash onto the floor. You couldn't catch it in time. There was a reaction time. In fact, the reaction time for most of us is about a quarter of a second. It's a click like that. And you can actually make measurements of recognition as well. And that's two finger clicks, which means when I look around the room I'm sitting in, or if you look around the room you're sitting in, and you say, oh, there's a chair, there's a cup, there's a table, there's whatever, got a name for everything. That's because we're living in a recognitive map, about half a second behind the actuality of whatever that thing is. So when you name something, a sense impression arises to you, and then you recognize it as whatever it is. In that process of recognition, there's about 400 milliseconds of time. In that gap is the whole of religion, the whole of philosophy, the whole of meditation, the whole thing. Because in that gap are all our preconceptions, all our judgments, all our wants, or our dislikes, all our likes, all the colorants we bring to make my world. So
Interesting.
we're living in a kind of colored up version, colored by me. So when someone, say, annoys us, so, you're in a room with someone who annoys you, everything they do annoys you. It's like,
Okay.
you
Lots of
can't
my
deal with
couples are
it.
going to relate to
Like
this.
your couples. Now, what's actually happened there is they are recognizing things they already don't like,
Yeah.
which means the other person is arising as an annoying thing.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
most folk don't realize is that's not the first thing, however. The first thing has got no judgment. The judgment is applied in that 400 milliseconds. And we react to the colored up impression as if it was real and primary. But it's not, it's secondary. And
Okay.
this is the key.
Okay, I got lots of questions. And I remember you doing this to me last time too in the episode. It's like you say something and then it creates like about 10 different questions and they're all spinning in my head right now. So let's rewind it back. Like
Okay.
there's 2 points that you made. The first point being, my world is a completely different world than your world.
We're not completely different. We wouldn't be able to communicate at all.
Well,
We have commonality, but your
yeah,
world is significantly different from my world. It's
right.
not totally different, or we wouldn't be talking because there'd be no
Well,
means.
Well, that was sort of my point. It was sort of like, well, then, what is reality? I think half of us are having an existential crisis as it is nowadays because, it's sort of like with AI um, but yeah, maybe that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, right. Okay, so we have common themes,
Well, no,
common.
let's be clear. There is a common agreed world, and then there is a personal world, and they
Yeah.
cross over.
Hmm.
And the common agreed world is often, again, arranged in groups. So a Chinese person and, say, a European person or an American person may well have quite different common agreements about what the world is. And that's what causes big political disagreements because people
Mm,
can't agree on what matters and what doesn't matter. But to each side of the argument, the other guy's just wrong, which is why, of course, civil wars are the worst wars because they're your friends and neighbors who you thought you knew
mm,
a different view from you. They must be lying because
mm,
I know I'm right, so they must be totally wrong. And
mm.
so actually that's what makes civil wars so nasty
But
because people can't believe that someone else has a different world from them. Now, I'm not saying there's no external stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm
mhm,
just saying that all of us color it with our recognitive process.
mhm,
And if we're totally blind to that, as most people are, because meditation is not taught in schools, so most of us are totally blind to it, we then can't understand why other people disagree with us. We think there
mhm,
must be something wrong with them to disagree with us like this. But of
mhm,
course, what's really happening is ignorance about how we construct our experience.
mhm.
And we don't have the psychological muscle to get beneath recognition unless we develop it. So this is a skill set. It's not given to us out of a box. It's actually a skill set. And if we can develop the skill set to get beneath recognition to cognition, everything changes.
Oh,
Everything. Not just one thing, everything.
everything. Okay.
Everything.
So like you said,
Can't
that
say
was
that enough.
that was really interesting. Yeah, like to the back to the recognition, what you said, that's where religion, that's where politics, that's where it's that pause, that delay that
Mm,
everything sits. Can you expand on that a little bit and then we'll get
yeah,
into some more like real practical exercises.
sure. Well, now,
Okay.
okay, so the question we're really getting to is what is a human being? What does it mean to be cognizant in a
Hmm.
world of things? Like my body is quite clearly a thing in as much as it's sitting on a chair, it's got mass, it's got weight, it's taking up space in the world and all that.
Hmm.
Yet I'm cognizant in a way that the chair is not.
Hmm.
So what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to be cognizant? Now, until we get to grips with that, we will always be confused about our circumstance.
Hmm.
And often this is where religion and deep beliefs start coming in because people don't really understand it. So they go and lay it off into some sort of higher belief, like God made the world or whatever. So we don't have to worry about it too much.
Hmm.
But the honest truth of it is that we can see in our own behavior that we're coloring up our experience. This is not difficult to discover. It's not difficult at all. If you ever get, say, as I say, back to the same thing, argue with your spouse. So there you are arguing with your spouse, and suddenly you realize you're not really arguing with him or her. You're arguing with something that's turned up about him or her. It's not really them. And then that's where the door begins. Now, of course, psychotherapy knows this very well. And psychotherapeutic techniques are quite effective at beginning to get beneath the coarse conditioning, the sort of familial stuff and parental stuff that colors up our experience. And that's why psychotherapy can be effective. However, it's rare for psychotherapy to go any deeper into the bigger picture, which is it's not just our relationships that are colored up, it's everything is colored up. All our naming, everything we know, all the ideas we think are true are recognized as true. And unless we can get beneath that fundamental process, we will never have any grasp on what it truly means to be a conscious being. We will always be living in a model that conscious being has made. Whereas really what you want to ask yourself is, how is that conscious being making that model? If I knew that, I'd be a lot closer to the actuality I'm in. And so again, you could say it's a search for truth. But this word truth here is referring precisely to this, what it means to be a conscious being in the world. And when you start thinking like this, you realize that everything you experience, and I mean everything, comes through this process. There is nothing that doesn't come through one of the five senses or thoughts and imaginations. So we live in a concept we call the world, and we have scientific theories about the world, but none of those are actual experiences for us. They're inferences based upon our recognition, which is itself a process that happens in time.
Okay, so let's get really I was just gonna say let's get really practical.
Yeah.
But first, before we do that, maybe it would help the audience, and I'll link the video below. But in Dr. Dixey's book, he mentions in the first or second chapter, right? This great video that's up on YouTube about a man reacting to a thunderbolt hitting the ground.
Yeah. So look, now I mentioned 400 milliseconds. It takes about 0.4 of a second, 2 finger clicks, to recognize.
Okay.
Now, most people go, nah, I don't believe it. What are you talking about? How can that be? You know, surely I'm in the world. I'm in the here and now. I can see it. I can react to it. No. And there are laboratory experiments that demonstrate this, but I want to talk about something that's not in a laboratory. So I found this incredible video in 2019 about a guy being struck by lightning.
Close call. This South Carolina man walking in the rain when a lightning bolt struck just feet from him. You can see the bolt hit the ground, causing the man to jump back. He threw his umbrella down, then quickly picked it back up and ran off. He says he felt the shock, but is just thankful not to have any major injuries. This, though, what a close call.
He's so close.
Oh, my God.
Wow, that's crazy. That had to be crazy.
And normally there are videos out there about people showing people struck by lightning, and normally the lightning bolt hits them on the head and they fall down dead.
Okay.
It's not very interesting. But this one was a little different because it's a guy walking across a quadrangle in Georgia, I think it is.
Yeah, it's the States.
It must be sort of some kind of midsummer thunderstorm in Georgia.
Yeah.
He's going across a quadrangle, and there's a lightning flash, and he runs on. The lightning didn't hit him, but it was enough to shock him, and he ran on. If you slow the video down, you see something absolutely amazing. This is obviously on a one of these security cameras. It's not an experiment. This is real.
Yeah.
So the camera shows, if you slow it down frame by frame, a lightning flash hitting the grass about a foot away from him. And then the next frame, the frame is totally whited out by the flash. And then the next frame, we're back to the guy walking. He hasn't changed his gait at all. He takes another whole step before he suddenly crumples up and starts running. A whole step is taken. It's about half a second before he reacts.
Yeah.
Now that's a lightning flash hitting the ground beside you.
Yeah.
And that's such a graphic demonstration of this phenomenon. We're all in this state. So they always say, if you're driving on the motorway, you've got to be about 100 yards behind the next car if you're doing 70 or 80 miles an hour, because if the next car hits a rock, you're going to need that much time to react before you bash into it.
Yeah.
So we get these instructions. We all know about this reaction time business, but most of us don't believe that it's that long. It is. Yeah. And it's that long the whole time. Now, if it was just a lag with nothing in it, it'd be okay. So, okay, we lag behind reality, so what? But this is where it gets interesting. All the unconscious conditioning manifests in that lag. And you can show this. There's an amazing device called a tachistoscope, which flashes images, and it flashes them so fast that you can't see the image, and it slows it, and it slows it, and it slows it, until eventually you can see the image. Now, this device was used, initially it was developed for speed reading. But then some rather clever people realized they could use it to actually look at unconscious processing. So one of the most famous uses of a tachistoscope is to take a couple holding hands, looking at, you flash it at about 1/500th of a second, it's just a blur. Start slowing it down to about 1/100th of a second. Subjects still can't see it, but their pre-conscious processing starts processing the image. And if people have psychological difficulty with affection, they may report seeing people fighting, for example. And then as it slows down more, eventually the actual image is able to be recognized, and they realize it's a couple holding hands. And this is an amazing demonstration of pre-conscious processing. It is well understood, this whole thing. There's any amount of literature on it. In fact, it was so popular in the 1960s that advertisers began putting pre-conscious imagery into adverts, and they had to ban it. Because if you flash, by whatever in an advert too fast to be processed, but just able to be pre-consciously processed, you can program people to do it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, and it was banned for that reason, because people were being brainwashed by pre-conscious imagery. And this is, this is all out there. There's all this stuff. And okay, again, so what? Well, if I want to understand myself, if I want to get beneath my psychological problems, I've got two things I can do. I can try and develop ethical guidelines, which will stop me from behaving really badly. I feel like punching the guy, but I hold myself back.
Yeah.
Or I can get beneath that wish to punch the guy to something else, namely the guy, him or herself. Now, psychotherapy takes you so far, but really to go much deeper, you need to develop a meditation practice. And in that meditation practice, you can get deeper and deeper and deeper into what you could call the ground of being, or the foundation of being, some language like that, the actuality of being.
Okay.
And this, of course, is the goal of meditation.
Which is mindfulness?
Well, mindfulness is a term that's used to describe the ability to see what's happening to you at all times. So it's really a fruit of something else. And the something else is better put as non-reactivity. But the problem we all run into is, because our experience is mapped, we react to the map, not to what made the map. And that reactivity so stirs us up with emotions and associations and all the rest of it, we can no longer get beneath the recognitive to the cognitive layer. So the first step in meditation is really calmness. It's called shamatha.
Yeah.
Shamatha leads to mindfulness. In the traditional text, they say right concentration leads to right mindfulness. That's how it's put. And normally people talk about vipassana. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of conflation about this term vipassana as to what it quite means. Vipassana literally means clear seeing. And so the idea is that if you learn to be non-reactive, you start seeing clearly. And as you see clearly, you are full of mind. You are mindful. And so mindfulness turns out to be a fruit of seeing clearly, which is a fruit of non-reactivity. And the question really is, how do you develop non-reactivity? What is that?
Okay, I want to stop you there, like, because I want to bring more psychology into this. So, so is, you said, okay, it's not mindfulness. It's something that happens before mindfulness. It's
Well, it would be right mindfulness, but it's not just awareness.
Right. Okay, it's not just awareness. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of books written on just being in the moment and awareness. But how about, like, where my mind goes is regulating your emotions. Like when you said calm, that's what I think of.
Okay, so let's look at emotionality. Now, emotionality is not primary. Emotionality is triggered from recognitive events. Before the recognitive event of something, there's no emotion. The emotion happens because we recognize something as nice, nasty, annoying, whatever, and we react to that.
Yeah.
So emotionality is a map consequence.
Yeah.
Beneath the map, there's no emotionality like that. And in fact, many of the things that we find disgusting are turned out to be learned. So young children will play with feces, for example, quite happily. They don't know it's disgusting. It's not inherently disgusting. We learn it to be disgusting. And then, oh my God, how could you do that? But initially, you'll find young kids quite happily doing that. And they are universally, not just one or two. All kids will do it. You have to train them out of it. And this is a good example of how emotionality is learned. So controlling emotionality is too late. You could say emotionality comes on the scene third in the sequence of events.
Okay.
So by the time you've got to emotionality, the story's already cooked.
Okay.
You've gone too late.
You know what? I wonder if I can do something here. Like I sort of bring couples or I bring people through like a bit of a pattern that I see how conflict begins because of being triggered. And,
being triggered.
And you know, let me see if I can just share it on my screen. And if I can, then people that are watching the YouTube can also take a look. Yeah, I can. So you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You see. Okay. So let's just concentrate on like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like, so yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at, okay, number one, what's the repeated, like I in couples therapy, I say, you know, what's the perpetual problem? What do you guys continue to do over and over? And then, okay, number two, what triggers it? So we talked about triggering each other. And then three is what we're really talking about here. What prediction, meaning, etc., happens there? So example is a woman at home during the day, stay-at-home mom or whatever, and her husband comes home and she predicts that he's going to be in a grumpy mood. And then what happens to the body? Well, I get tense or whatever. And then the way I describe it after that, then we go into some sort of protective behavior. We might, blah, 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 blah. So I'll stop sharing now, but that's.
No, leave that up there just for a minute.
Okay.
So now what's so interesting about this is, okay, steps 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are elaborations of a recognitive event that
wait. Yeah, what?
We've shrunk. Doesn't matter. Anyway.
Okay, wait, let me try sharing that again. Yeah, that was interesting.
It doesn't matter if you can't get it back, but I mean, it's
think I can.
interesting to look at this from the point of view of.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so steps 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are elaborations on a cognitive event in step 3. Because step 3 says what prediction / meaning happens there. That is a narrative structure based upon a recognized something. So it says, I'll never get it all done, or, whatever. There's always a story around it. What's been recognized? What's been recognized is the repeated behavior in number 1, which is the snoring or whatever it is. It's annoying the person. I overeat at night. Okay,
yeah,
I'm overeating at night. So it's that behavior.
Yeah.
But what you're not getting to is what happens 0 and -1. Because in 0 and -1, you have the actual beginning of the process. And the beginning of the process is prior to this term, what is the repeated behavior. By the time you've got to that, you're not at the beginning. You're already at the beginning of a narrative. You've got to go prior to the narrative altogether to truly cut through this stuff. Now, this is all fine. This is classic psychotherapy. And of course, if you can, from 3 to 7, do that, you will improve, no question, the repeated behavior in number 1. But you will have many examples of this. You'll have to do it every single time, because each one of the repeated behaviors that are problematic has to be dealt with in this way. Or you could get prior to the repeated behavior and cut them all at once.
Oh, well, that sounds attractive.
Doesn't it? Now, the all at once cut is something altogether different, because you're no longer living in recognition. You're living in cognition. And when you live in cognition, something altogether different happens. These events are still being triggered, but you're no longer empowering them, because your mindfulness has found its true home, which is in cognition, not recognition. You can even see patterns of irritation arising and say, I'm not going to bother with that. And people are going to say, oh, you've become so wise. You see things the way they are and you don't react to them. You've become so wise. Yes, you have, because you've got beneath the cyclical patterning of recognition to its actual ground. And that's exactly what meditation is designed to do. It's designed to take you there. And if you can get there, then, as I said, everything changes. Because the ground of recognition is undercut by the actual ground of being. And the actual ground of being is quite different from the ground of recognition.
Okay, so now tell us, how do we do that? It sounds wonderful.
Yes, only 5 minutes. Okay, so the answer is you have to develop a habit. And in fact, the Tibetans have a great word for meditation. They call it gompa.
Who does?
And gom literally means habit. You develop a habit, a gom. And the habit you have to develop is the ability to control your attention. Now, we're very vulnerable. I mean, human beings are pretty poor animals, basically. If you parachute yourself into the jungle, they're a lot better equipped animals than you to deal with circumstances.
Yeah, we're low on the
we're not
on
very
the ladder.
impressive. Yeah. And so how come we've dominated the world? We've dominated the world because of our recognitive ability to make maps of our experience and learn from those maps ways of survival. Now, tool making has now been put back as far as 250,000 years. They've found tool making that early in radiocarbon dating. It's clearly not a recent thing. We have been developing sophisticated technology beyond any animal for at least 250,000 years. Now, of course, in the last 200 years, the sophistication has gone nuts. And now we are changing the whole planet, possibly not for the better, but we are undoubtedly changing the whole planet because of our recognitive map. So I'm not suggesting that recognitive maps are useless. Not at all. It's recognitive maps that got me sitting in a room with the lights on, not in a tree being scared by saber-toothed tigers.
Right.
That's how it works. But there's the problem. The recognitive map is inherently paranoid. We are, after all, rather unimpressive animals. almost any wild animal can do serious damage to us. Almost any. It's quite remarkable. Even the cat can beat the hell out of you if it wants to.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take much to realize that this recognitive map is protective. It's designed to get us out of difficult situations and get us better situations. And indeed, we spend a lot of time cogitating about how exactly to do that.
Yeah.
Now, this paranoia is very, very deep-seated. Evidence: nobody wants to hear good news. All we want to hear is bad news. I would read quite happily a whole long article about an earthquake in Ethiopia rather than the good thing that happened on the street outside.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've never been to Ethiopia, the earthquake's got nothing to do with me. Why do I spend all my time reading this stuff? Because my map maker wants to check that it couldn't possibly happen to me. It's putting that into the filing system, saying, okay, got to watch out for this and that. That's why good news never sells. Bad news sells. Actually, there's much more good news in the world than there is bad news. Example: if you fall over in the street, a total stranger will come and pick you up. Often they'll run to pick you up quite unconsciously. And this isn't just here. I'm sure it'd be the same in North Korea, honestly. I don't care where you are. It's nothing to do with politics. It's to do with human nature.
Yeah.
But we have a systematically distorted view of ourselves because our map maker is paranoid. Now, the reason the map maker interferes so much is because it gets our attention. Strictly speaking, it adverts our attention, which is where the word advertising comes from. It captures our attention and says, look at this, look at this, look at this. So our default state, if we're making a map all the time, is to be adverted from one thing to the next to check it's okay. And of course, that produces a stressful, fractured, uncomfortable feeling. What is worse, 99.9% of us carry a little mobile computer around, which is full of advertising. So this thing is adverting us all the time. In fact, I live in San Francisco. You go on the public transport, everybody is looking at their phone. They don't even look around anymore, it's just on their phone. Right. This is an appalling stressor. So stress is going up and up and up and up as the advertising takes us over more and more and more, exploiting this fundamental feature of our consciousness, namely protective map making. What do we do about it? We have to recapture our ability to control our attention. That's the thing we are being undermined by. We don't control our attention. We are, in a sense, out of control because we're being manipulated by all these external agents that are capturing our attention. Now, the way you do this is by taking a very, very simple approach. We have 6 gates, the 5 senses, mind and imaginations. The classic technique is say, look, 6 is too many. Let's just go to 1 and concentrate on that. So the classic way to start, in my view, is to take the visual gate, because our eyes are so dominant in our senses, and look at something. Now, I like to look at a candle. And the reason I like to look at a candle is because a candle's alive. It's not a photograph. It's a real live thing. And all you do is you watch a candle. And within 10 seconds, a thought will come and advert you. And you just say, no, I'm watching a candle. Another, a car door slams. I'm watching a candle. You just gradually train yourself to watch the candle and not do anything else. And that technique of watching a candle in and of itself is a vital first step to controlling our attentiveness. If you do this for 3 minutes, 7 days in a row, you'll find by the end of that 7th day, you'll have far more ability to simply place your mind on an object and hold it there. And in so doing, a lot of the noise that we're normally subjected to begins to calm just by that. Now, we can obviously go deeper. It turns out that there are actually 2 factors to our attention. The first one is the thing that adverts.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of brittle, concentration. It holds an object, but it's brittle. It can be easily disturbed. But there's a second feature of advertising. It's called savoring. You can't savor something if you can't advert to it. But most of us have lost the ability to savor.
Mm.
You know, I remember back 30 years ago when the French used to have an obligatory hour lunch break. It was by law that you had to have an hour off for lunch. And that's because they make a big deal of eating a proper lunch.
Yeah.
And then this habit of people sitting at their work desk and gulping down sandwiches gradually took over. Most of us never savor anything. All we do is gulp our food down, pour coffee down our throat, run to the next thing.
And
so we have to learn to savor. And if we learn to savor, we can stabilize our concentration. So we not only advert it, but then we rest there and enjoy the experience of savoring. And the classic way of doing that is to choose as an object of attention something that changes in time. So as we savor it, it's changing. And the one I like to take is a fading bell. So you hit a bell and then you listen as the sound fades into silence.
I remember doing that one, and I found that one difficult. Like when it went from
it went from most
visual.
of us don't have the capacity.
No.
So what you have to do, you have to begin watching a candle.
Yeah.
Until you can watch a candle for 3 minutes. And even if thoughts come, you're completely unconcerned. You just go back to the candle.
Yeah.
You do that enough, you'll start developing a gom, a habit, a gom. And as you start developing that habit of controlling your attentiveness, then you can start listening to a fading bell. Because you've got the ability to control your senses, now you can enjoy, savor the fading sound into silence. Once you can be concentrated in silence, you're beginning to create the ground of calmness from which clear seeing can begin.
Well, that reminds me, you have an app.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a little app, yeah.
What is it called again?
It's called 3 Minutes. You can find it in the App Store.
Yeah. Because
and it's got all these little exercises on it.
Yeah.
It's a free app.
Yeah, because I was looking for the book, and of course I can't find it, which tells me that I lent it out to one of my clients, and I have a terrible habit of doing that. And then, like, I'm very well known in my weekly newsletter, also like at a foot of like, by the way, does anybody have the, anyway.
Well, I think you're going to find 3 minutes. I'm just going to check if it's still there. I think you put 3 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's called 3 Minutes. And it's an actual app. And what it does is it takes you through the meditation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can find it. It's on the App Store. And this app, and there's a book, of course, 3 minutes a day.
Yes.
But the idea is, by a very simple series of techniques, you begin to get deeper than the reflexive reactivity, which is our default normal state. As long as we're in that default state of reflexive reactivity, life is always stressful. And in many ways, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It just feels like we're out of control. There's a genuine sense now in many Western countries that we're going in the wrong direction, but we don't know why. So people can't work out. So you get all these ridiculous statements like, go back, make things great again, like they were in some prior time. We're not going to talk too much about when that was, because of course it never existed. But the idea is there's something wrong with our current circumstance. Let's go back. Yeah. But what's really much more effective would be to work out what's wrong with our current circumstance. It's these things. These are very, very dangerous technology. And what they're doing is they're making us stressed beyond what is tolerable. Of course, everybody's got a degree of stress, but the relentless march of technology is highly stressful unless we can control our reactivity. If we can control our reactivity by taking control of our power of attention, we take back to ourselves the fundamental thing that makes us human. which is our attention.
Mm-hmm.
So once we realize that, we realize meditation is a fundamental life skill. It's not just something that's nice to do along with, Tai Chi or something. This is a fundamental life skill.
No,
And
it's
of course, as you develop the life skill, it opens up door upon door upon door, which you never knew were there because you were too busy being distracted by all of the recognitive events that populate your experience.
yeah. So yeah, it's not where does this fall in the sequence? It's
It's
pre
pre-sequenced.
any trigger pre.
It's invisible.
So again, for the practical example of, and I'm going to be very stereotypical here when I said, wife's at home cooking dinner and her husband. Let's go back to 1950s, and her husband walks in. So that whole thing gets turned upside down because when he walks in, she's concentrating on the scent of the food, the stirring, which is very meditative, the color, is in the pot, and her husband actually has to come in and tap her on the shoulder and say, I'm home. Like, I think that's what you're talking about. Okay.
Well, kind of. I mean, remember the husband's had a day at work. He's had all kinds of stuff gone on.
Yeah.
He's got all kinds of stuff in his map.
Yeah.
And she's been at home she's got all kinds of stuff in her map. The two maps are not necessarily going to mesh. And it's precisely if they don't immediately mesh together, the danger is what will happen is you immediately get a reactive fight. So you really need to have some downtime to allow the maps to unify. And then if you're wise, you start slowing down so that the reactivity is lessened. Then you can get back into properly relating one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is this is one of the challenges of relationship, that people are in different states. They have different worlds. And when the worlds meet, you've got to allow some time of adjustment. It is not easy to just come straight in from work into another world. And that really is a source of many, many, many problems. There's a very nice I show this one. It's when the advice is come in, you talk about what's happened, you compliment, you analyze and make suggestions for change.
Okay.
So you start off just in a state of neutral narration.
Right.
Then you build trust through compliment, and only then do you start talking about anything more substantive. You've got to allow this time. And this is wise psychological advice. Of course, this is all post-meditation. This is all at the level of recognition, but it's wise. If you were both meditators, of course, and you were able to get beneath recognition, you could cut straight through to communication. It would be possible.
Right.
But, most of us are not in that state.
That's really, really nice. Like, actually, I mean, one thing I encourage is if they have the opportunity is for like one spouse to call their other spouse, maybe at home on the way home, just to kind of catch up and then once they walk
that's
in.
the first thing. Communicate.
Yeah. But then
come in with warm, not with,
Right.
Yeah.
And then so you're saying and then you walk in the house and you compliment each other somehow.
Compliment. Always compliment before you criticize. Never criticize before you compliment. That doesn't make up for it.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Compliment first.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then suggestions, if required, but only. Otherwise, it's never works. You just get resistance. And of course, most of us are not fully conscious of our map making. So we develop prejudice and we develop opinion unconsciously. So those have to be dealt with quite carefully. So you might build up resentment.
Yeah.
And not really realizing it's happening until it starts to totally block communication. By that stage, it's substantial.
Absolutely.
So trying to catch it early before it builds up is very, very important. And often couples only realize that they've got difficulty when they stop communicating. By the time they stop communicating, the damage is already done. It's already built up. The resentment has built up. and you have to actively undermine it, actively repair it. Now, this is all wise. This is I think this is all very valuable. Of course, it's not directly to do with meditation, but it's very valuable advice.
No, absolutely. I know, like it's kind of funny. Like so many couples come in and say, we don't know how to communicate. Well, not really though. You don't know how to pre-recognize or like kind of ground yourself before communicating. Like, but you're right. Like there's so often I'll be speaking to one of the spouses and they'll say, he does this or she does this or and I'm like, have you asked, like, have you talked to them about what your needs are though? Like it's like they've just determined it, but it's all the narratives in their head. It's all
narratives. That's right. And the
all
problem is
narratives.
because they think it is real,
Yeah.
they therefore think there's a genuine complaint.
Yeah.
But of course, ultimately, no narrative is real. A narrative is a selection from a series of possibilities. There's actually a really good metaphor. I've just been reading George Eliot's Middlemarch, which is a book of genius if you've never read it. And George Eliot gives this wonderful example. She says, if you get a piece of metal and you randomly scrub it with a scrubbing brush, so it's got loads and loads of small scratches on it.
Yeah.
And then you hold a candle up to it, all the scratches would arrange themselves as if they're in circles around the candle. It will look as though they're perfect circles, but they're not. They're totally random scratches. What you've done is you've created a narrative. The light reflects in perfect circles. So it looks like that's what's on the plate, but it's not. The plate's completely random. You've made a narrative. Now, that's how narratives are.
Yeah.
Narratives are selections from the totality of events. And if we think that they're real, we run into the problem of then reacting to the narrative and not to reality. And there's the thing. And that's unfortunately how 99.995% of the world is. Very few people are not living in a narrative. And narratives are limiting and they cause all these problems.
Well, it's true. Like you mentioned civil war in a country, but it's like with your spouse, it's another form of civil war.
In a family is even worse. Because you fall in love, you get married, you think you have an idea of this other person.
Yeah.
And then somehow they changed is normally the way.
Right.
But they changed. But of course, really what happened was the narrative broke down.
Yeah.
Whatever narrative strength there was initially broke down. And then you've got two narratives for one event, a marriage. Oh my God. Then you have a real problem. Real problem. And, renew vows and all. It's all very nice, but vowing is not going to fix this problem. Vowing, which is a normal thing, I'm going to retake my marriage vows and everything will be fine. It's fine until the vow wears out. But of course, vows do. You've really got to get to the narrative itself and understand it. Of course. Yeah.
No, it's so true. It's interesting, I've never really thought about that like that before, that you have to share the same narrative like within one house. It's true, like for harmony to occur. Yeah.
You do. I mean, of course, there's a big thing about nuclear families. Are nuclear families healthy? They're not. Historically, they're very recent, and in many ways they're not. And, in the old days, there were always extended families. So there was a much bigger narrative within which a particular couple would occupy a place. And so it was less intense because it was really in a bigger network of relationships that one relationship with another would happen. And I think the nuclear family, when it's isolated, like it is so often in Western society, is quite problematic psychologically. It takes a lot more handling than it might have done 100 years ago, when you would have had all your aunts and uncles and cousins and nephews and everybody else around you in a family grouping, which of course makes it far less demanding of the couple themselves. There's that too, but it doesn't alter the fact that it just highlights this issue of narrative disjunction, which I think is a real feature. I do. Now, of course, actually, we all live in narrative disjunction all the time. That's to say, the map we make of what is real is not real. So all the time, little things don't quite fit. And our paranoid map maker is going, what's that? what's that?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a problem? Or so there's an underlying sense of paranoia in everyone. Everybody has it. And that underlying sense of paranoia is what meditators call dukkha, or stress. It's an underlying basal stress. It is not a requirement of being a human being to be stressed. It is a consequence of reflexive reactivity, unconscious map making. That's what's making us so stressed. So again, a meditator will tell you, if they're successful, stress levels just fall. They're no longer being stressed all the time because they're not mapping everything all the time. They're living in the world without an idea of what the world is. That is such a liberation of stress, that all the stresses that would normally freak you out go out the window because you no longer have this preconception of what you're meant to be doing, what I'm meant to be doing.
Like a couple of things, Richard. Like one is, it's when you talked about the animals in the jungle or whatever, like it also made me think of just let's say a deer in a meadow. The deer doesn't the deer isn't well, wait, would you say, like, it's attentive, it has to be, it's protective, like it's protecting itself, right? So from prey. But the attention part is just one of the pieces, right? Like, because we're different than a deer. Like, a deer is probably in Zen most of the time, like regulated and happy and stress free, unless there is danger. So, really, like, so you're saying a deer is living more in reality than we are.
That's why we like our pets, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's why you stroke a
That's why they're
cat.
so chill.
They're
Yeah.
chilled. They're completely chilled because they have a
Oh.
much smaller map to deal with. And if nothing's coming up, then there's nothing.
Right.
They're totally relaxed. And then
Wow.
it's only if something comes up, wow, then they're on it. But
Yeah.
that's why pets are so nice. You hang around
Wow.
pets, great. And they can sit for hours doing absolutely nothing. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong. They sit there. Like dogs
Yeah.
will sit, they'll just sit for 12 hours. They'll sit.
Right.
There's nothing bugging them. And so, of course, they're lovely to be with. Now, I'm not suggesting we should revert back to animal consciousness. What I'm suggesting, we should transcend map making to true humanity, which is all to become a human being for real, a real being. And a human being is someone who's consciously embodied. They are fully mindful. This is what the American Indians used to say about the white Europeans. They'd say they spoke with a forked tongue. They weren't truly there. And you'll find in tribal writings often beautiful references to the wholeness of being. It's something well understood by these societies, shamanistic societies. And I think our modernity has lost it systematically due to a number of historical processes. And although we have far more power than the tribal societies do, in many ways we're far, far more unhappy. And again, the tribal elders will say this. They will say, our little brother, they always call us their little brother, are so unhappy. And the danger is that the unhappy little brother is going to destroy the world. Because the unhappy little brother doesn't know why they're unhappy.
Yeah.
And they start doing very, very unfortunate things. And I think there's a lot of truth in it. I do.
Yeah.
And so you can embed meditation within a much larger view of what you could call sacredness. That someone who's not mapping is inherently sacred. They make everything around them sacred. There's inherent decency and inherent sacredness in all of us. Our map making cuts us off from it all the time. But that's why I say, if you fall over in the street, the next guy runs to pick you up. They don't even think about it.
No.
Because that's our basic state.
Right.
That is the ground. And that's the ground we've lost. And recovering that ground is to recover a huge discovery about decency that we all have, and we're all basically okay. It's just that we've got seduced. So, there's a wonderful quote from Wittgenstein. The purpose of philosophy is to rescue our natural intelligence from its seduction by value, by words, by language. The purpose of philosophy is to rescue our natural intelligence from its seduction by language. Language, recognitive structures have seduced us away from our natural intelligence.
It's true.
Into a man-made model of the world. And we can see where it's going, and it's not pretty. It's not a happy world. Yeah, it's very efficient and all that, but it's not a happy world. And this is a real tragedy of modernity.
Right.
Genuine.
A lot of it is attraction to the material world, you could say,
Yeah, of
too,
course.
right? Yeah.
Stuff,
Yeah.
things, gizmos. But trouble is, you buy one gizmo, you have to get another one, because gizmos, yeah, they're great for a bit, and then they're kind of boring because they're just things.
Yeah.
There's nothing really special about a gizmo. And so we get better and better and better gizmos. So what?
Yeah.
Better and better iPhones. So what?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what is the point of being more efficient?
Oh, I know.
If your efficiency is making you less and less happy, the answer is don't. And, often people who have almost nothing are happy in a way that people who have all this stuff are not. And understanding that paradox is very, very important for modernity, because we're getting more and more stuff. And if we don't understand why it doesn't make us happy, and I'm not making a religious argument, say, oh, we shouldn't have it, or God doesn't want us to, or something. No, none of that stuff. It's because it stresses us.
Yeah.
And it's the stress. Now, if you start overcoming your stress, you want less and less.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of gizmos. They're just not important.
Yeah.
So you get less and less and less and less and less. The less stressed you are, the less you need. And the less you need, the less you have to work. And the less you have to work and run around, the less stressed you get. You go into a virtuous cycle of de-stressing. So, of course, the advent of AI and all this stuff could be a golden age for an unstressed humanity. Not going to be. Not unless this is fixed. It's going to be absolutely the reverse. It's going to create a hellish world of distraction in which people will be bored and distracted by video games and have too much spare time and have no meaning and ennui and all these terrible psychological problems because they haven't controlled their attention. And it's so fundamental to human happiness. It can't be overstressed. Control your attention is the path to happiness.
Yeah, no, I really appreciated our conversation because, like you said, it ties into so many different aspects of our lives, and no, it's
literally everything.
It's true, and it's simple, but it's not, which is really interesting as well. So
simple but not easy. That's what they always say.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Simple but not easy, and you have to develop a habit.
Okay.
If you develop a habit of meditation, it will slowly transform your life.
Oh,
like you can fill a bathtub with a dripping tap. It takes a long time, but it slowly happens. And in exactly the same way, just 3 minutes a day. It's all it takes.
Yeah.
Just that 3 minutes. Do that every day. You'll find it becomes a staff you can hold on to. Literally hold you. It is such an important thing to develop. And to me, it's something that, teaching meditation and meditating myself is the most important thing I do. By miles. It's not because I'm a fanatic meditator or trying to convert people or something.
No.
It's just because you can feel psychologically how valuable it is.
Yeah.
And it's that really, it's part of our humanity. And we have lost control of our attention. The most important thing we have, we've lost control of. And, as clever as we are and as cleverer as we are getting, we're getting further and further away from our attention. And this is immensely damaging. So, that's why. And the techniques are so simple. I mean, they're not complicated. And the mistake I made with 3 minutes a day, and it's interesting you mention it, is a lot of folk didn't hear when I said, look, if you're having a problem with the second exercise, go back to the first. And if you're having a problem with the third exercise, go back to the second.
Right.
So people say, oh, I could do the first one, but I couldn't do the second one, so I gave up.
Right.
And the answer is, well, that's a pity, because you should just stick at the first one And then when you've got it down, you do the second. It's just a gum. It's just a habit.
Yeah,
And
no, I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because I remember saying you have to follow the sequence. You can't skip ahead to the seventh one or something
you
like
can't
that.
skip ahead.
No.
You can't read like a book for information.
Right.
But also, you can't just do 7, and even if it didn't work, go to the next one, because they build. And so,
Yeah.
honestly, watching a candle is almost the whole thing. Honestly, watching a candle, if you just watched a candle 3 minutes a day for the rest of your life, I promise you it would transform your life. Just that.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything else. Once you get good at it, you can do something more, but you don't have to. Just watch a candle. It's that simple. It's so crazy.
I was going to say, listeners, you heard it. You heard it today from Richard and I. It's a challenge. I want you guys all to do this for the month of whenever you listen to this, but it's June now for us. So yeah, no, thanks a lot, Richard. I think I recognized through our conversation today, our last conversation, and but also some really new pieces of information that that are very worth.
Well, I tell you what's so surprising: cognitive psychology and constructivist psychology are recapitulating what the meditators wrote thousands of years ago. It's not, it's an amazing phenomenon. It's quite extraordinary how precise stuff written in the 5th century is about our cognitive process. And we're now recapitulating it with modern technology, but they're not going beyond it. The meditators had it down completely. They knew exactly what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And they got it right. And really all we're doing now is putting it into modern clothing, trying to find modern language and modern ways of expressing the same basic insights. That's all. So 3 minutes a day, it's a bit of a naff title, I think. But anyway, that's the title of the book. I didn't choose it. But the book itself is just so simple.
Simple. It's so simple. Yeah.
100 pages long. It's nothing.
Yeah. No,
but the main thing is, don't go beyond your capacity. If your capacity is to watch a candle, watch a candle.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Beautiful thing.
Yep. Yep. All right. Okay, well, thank you so much, and we'll link, your information and the app and the video for people that want to watch that video of the lightning
bolts. Yeah, great, do that, because that video is a trip.
Yeah,
and make sure you get people to slow it down, or maybe the video you can when you screen grab the video, slow it down to actually show it frame by frame. Then you really see it.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Very interesting. Yeah. Okay, good idea. Okay,
Super.
Well, thanks so much. And
pleasure.
Okay.
Anytime, Noella.
Okay.
Anytime.
Everyone else, have a great week. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Remember that you can watch the full episode on YouTube, where I plan to hang out the most. Your feedback and suggestions for future guests are incredibly valuable to me, so please don't hesitate to post a comment. You are an integral part of this journey.